Paul Madeley, one of the greatest footballers England ever produced.
Madeley, a great goal! What a beauty by Madeley!
Yet somehow, one of the least talked about. That shouldn't make sense. He played for one of the greatest Leeds United teams ever assembled. Won league titles, lifted major trophies, represented England, played more than 700 matches for his club, and still, his name is rarely mentioned alongside the biggest legends of his generation. Why? Because Paul Madeley did something almost no footballer has ever done. He mastered almost every outfield position. One week, he defended. The next, he controlled midfield. Then suddenly, he was leading the attack. Most players build a legacy in one role. Paul Madeley sacrificed that opportunity for the good of the team. Johnny Giles once described him with 7 unforgettable words. 7 top-class players in one. Think about that. One of football's greatest midfielders believed his teammate possessed the quality of 7 elite players. So why does history still struggle to explain exactly who Paul Madeley was? How can someone so trusted become so overlooked? Because the deeper you explore his career, the more remarkable it becomes. Subscribe, because football's greatest stories are often the ones history almost forgets. Before Don Revie trusted him with almost every position on the pitch, there was a time when Leeds United weren't even sure he was quick enough to make the first team. Don Revie never built his Leeds United team around one system. He built it around trust, and no player earned more of that trust than Paul Madeley. Whenever injuries disrupted the team, Madeley moved. Whenever tactics changed, Madeley adapted. Whenever Leeds faced another important match, Revie already knew who could handle the job. Right back, left back, centre half, midfield, even attack. Most footballers spend years mastering one position. Madeley mastered whatever Leeds needed next. That was why he became impossible to leave out. In 1968, he wore the number 9 shirt in the League Cup final. 3 years later, he scored against Juventus in the Intercities Fairs Cup final. For England, most of his international matches came at right back, the position many believed suited him best. Yet he was never allowed to stay there for long. Every new injury, every suspension, every tactical change sent Paul Madeley somewhere else. Don Revie eventually gave him a nickname, the Rolls-Royce. Not because he entertained the crowd, because he made difficult football look effortless. Smooth movement, perfect timing. Simple decisions, almost never rushed. His teammates became known for one position. Paul Madeley became known for solving everyone else's. That made Leeds United one of Europe's strongest teams. But it quietly created the biggest problem of his career. When history looked back, it remembered the specialists, not the man who could replace almost all of them. Before Don Revie realized exactly what he had, one Leeds scout believed Paul Madeley lacked the pace to reach the highest level. Before Don Revie called Paul Madeley his Rolls-Royce, Leeds United almost saw something else. One scout questioned his pace. Madeley looked too relaxed, too comfortable, almost slow. It was the wrong conclusion. Years earlier, he had been one of Leeds' fastest schoolboy athletes. His style simply fooled people. He never sprinted without reason. He rarely chased the game. He read it first, then moved. After leaving school, he worked as an insurance clerk. In the evenings, he played for Farsley Celtic. No headlines, no huge reputation, just another young footballer chasing an opportunity. Leeds signed him in 1962. His debut followed 2 years later, but breaking into Revie's team looked almost impossible. Paul Revie, Jack Charlton, Norman Hunter, Billy Bremner, Johnny Giles. Every position already belonged to someone. Most young players would have waited. Madeley adapted. If the defense needed him, he played. If midfield needed him, he moved. Every chance became another reason to trust him. Revie soon realized something. Paul Madeley wasn't just filling gaps. He was solving problems. And every time he solved one, his place in the team became harder to question. His position became harder to define. That unusual gift would soon take him to Wembley, wearing a shirt almost nobody expected to see him in. By 1968, Don Revie trusted Paul Madeley completely. Then came the League Cup final. Leeds United against Arsenal. Wembley. The biggest stage in English football. Most supporters expected Madeley to appear somewhere in defence. That never happened. Revie handed him the number 9 shirt, the centre-forward's shirt. It wasn't a publicity stunt. It wasn't an experiment. It was trust. Leeds won 1-0. The club lifted the first major trophy of the Revie era. Madeley didn't need headlines. His selection already told the story. Few managers would ask a defender to lead the attack in a major final. Revie did, because he believed Madeley understood football, not just one position. That season became even bigger. Leeds also lifted the Intercities Fairs Cup. The club was no longer chasing success. It was becoming one of Europe's strongest teams. And Madeley was everywhere. Sometimes protecting the defence, sometimes supporting midfield, sometimes joining the attack. His role changed. His importance never did. Most footballers became easier to recognise. Madeley's career moved in the opposite direction. Every new responsibility made him harder to define. Then came another European challenge, another final, another different role. This time, Paul Madeley wouldn't just play. He would score one of the most important goals of his career. 3 years later, another final arrived. This time, Juventus, one of Europe's biggest clubs. The stage was even larger. So was the pressure. Paul Madeley wasn't wearing number 9 anymore. He wore number 11. Another different job. Another different responsibility. Then came the moment. Madeley found space, hit his shot, and scored in Turin. It became one of the biggest goals of his career. Leeds drew 2-2 away, then 1-1 at Elland Road. The away goals were enough. Leeds lifted another European trophy. Once again, Madeley had changed roles. Once again, he had delivered. That became the pattern of his career. When Leeds needed defending, he defended. When Leeds needed control, he controlled. When Leeds needed a goal, he could provide one. Very few footballers could change positions. Even fewer could change matches. Don Revie understood that better than anyone. He never looked at Paul Madeley and saw a replacement. He saw insurance. If injuries struck, Madeley was ready. If tactics changed, Madeley adapted. If another final arrived, Madeley could be trusted. That trust helped Leeds win trophies. But it also hid something. Supporters celebrated the goal scorers. They remembered the captains. They remembered the specialists. Paul Madeley quietly connected everything together. And while Leeds continued collecting silverware, one decision by Don Revie would define the next chapter of Madeley's career. He stopped asking, "Where can Paul Madeley play?" Instead, he began asking, "Where does Leeds United need him most?" That question followed Paul Madeley for the rest of his career. Wherever Leeds needed him, that was where he played. When Terry Cooper suffered a serious injury, Madeley moved to left back. Leeds reached another FA Cup final. Another different position. Another huge occasion. Leeds beat Arsenal 1-0. Another winner's medal. Then the role changed again. Some weeks, he played in midfield. Other weeks, he returned to defence. Nothing seemed unfamiliar. Nothing looked forced. Most players spend years trying to own one position. Madeley kept giving his away. That became his greatest sacrifice. Every new role helped Leeds. Every new role made his own identity disappear. While supporters saw Billy Bremner as the captain, Madeley simply became the man who fixed problems. His consistency didn't go unnoticed. He helped Leeds win 2 league titles, domestic cups, European trophies. He also became a regular for England. Most of his international matches came at right back. Many believed that was his strongest position, but Leeds rarely allowed him to stay there. The team always needed something else, something only Paul Madeley could provide. Ironically, the quality that made him priceless to Don Revie made him difficult for history to remember, because football loves specialists. Paul Madeley became something much rarer, a footballer trusted almost everywhere. Then came the biggest decision of his international career. One decision that people would debate for years. In 1970, England received bad news. Paul Revie suffered a broken leg. Alf Ramsey needed a replacement for the World Cup in Mexico. He turned to Paul Madeley. For many players, there would have been only one answer. Madeley said no. The decision shocked people. Some questioned his ambition. Others called it unpatriotic. But the full story was different. Leeds had just completed one of the most demanding seasons in club history. They had fought for the league, the FA Cup, and the European Cup. The squad was exhausted. Madeley had already arranged a family holiday. He also believed arriving at the last minute meant he was unlikely to play. So he stayed home. The criticism came quickly. But Alf Ramsey never closed the door. The following year, Paul Madeley made his England debut. He would go on to earn 24 caps. Every one of them as a starter. Most came at right back. The position many believed suited him best. Yet one question never disappeared. What if he had accepted that flight to Mexico? England never qualified for another major tournament during his international career. The chance he turned down was the only World Cup opportunity he would ever receive. Paul Madeley never built his reputation on controversy. But that decision remained part of his story. Back at Leeds, another challenge was waiting. Don Revie was gone. A new manager had arrived. And for one of the few times in his career, Paul Madeley found himself at the centre of a dressing room crisis. Don Revie had left Leeds United. His successor was Brian Clough. It looked like the beginning of a new era. Instead, it became one of football's shortest reigns. Clough had openly criticised Revie's Leeds for years. Now he was managing the same dressing room. The relationship never settled. Results suffered. So did trust. Then came a meeting between the players and club directors. Voices filled the room. The discussion went nowhere. Paul Madeley had stayed quiet, as he usually did. Then he finally spoke. According to later accounts, he looked toward director Sam Bolton and said, "What the players are trying to say, Mr. Bolton, is that he's no good." The room understood. When Paul Madeley spoke, people listened, not because he spoke often, because he almost never did. Clough's reign ended after only 44 days. Madeley remained. Just as he always had. His loyalty never changed. He spent his entire senior career at Leeds United. He never chased another club, never created transfer drama, never searched for headlines. Even after football, he returned to his family, worked in the family business, raised 2 sons with his wife Anne. For almost 20 years, Paul Madeley gave everything to Leeds United. Then he quietly stepped away from football. No television career, no search for fame. Just family, his wife, Anne, their 2 sons, Jason and Nick, and the family business. Then came life's hardest battle, a benign brain tumor, a heart attack. Then Parkinson's disease. The illness slowly took away the movement that had once made him so extraordinary. Yet he faced it, as he had faced football, quietly, with dignity. On 23 July 2018, Paul Madeley passed away. He was 73. Leeds United mourned him. His former teammates paid tribute. His family stood beside him. But outside Leeds, too many people had already forgotten how great he truly was. Paul Madeley became something even rarer. The footballer who sacrificed his own identity so the team could succeed. That is why he remains one of Leeds United's greatest legends. And perhaps the most underrated footballer of his generation. Subscribe because legends like Paul Madeley deserve to be remembered for everything they achieved, not forgotten because they chose the team over themselves.